I'm Kathleen Rehl with the Chartered Advisor in Philanthropy program at the American College of Financial Services. Today, we're privileged to interview Stephen Meyers. He's the author of the book Personalized Philanthropy, Crash the Fundraising Matrix. We're here at the historic Caffè Lena, a nonprofit in Saratoga Springs, New York, where we'll uncover secrets behind the personalized philanthropy concept. So if you're interested in creating lasting legacies that continue for generations for your donors, this is the place where you want to be. Come on in and join us for the conversation. Caffè Lena has a rich history and legacy, and the iconic singer-songwriters and their performances have been here for over 60 years. This is a true gem. Caffè Lena is a treasure of Saratoga Springs, New York. So here we are in the heart of it all, in the listening room of Caffè Lena. Thank you, Steve Meyers, author, for joining us today.
It's a joy to be here.
And Sarah Craig, Executive Director of Caffè Lena.
Yeah, thank you, Kathleen. It is really exciting to have you both here in the performance space at Lena's.
Well, let's dive right in. Steve, you have written a book about personalized philanthropy, and it's a concept that's literally rocking the philanthropy world right now. Can you tell us a little bit more about the philosophy behind that?
I wrote personalized philanthropy because I found that most people who were doing philanthropy, both on the donor side and on the fundraiser side, the institution side, they were finding that it really wasn't as personal as it should be. Personalized philanthropy is a way of aligning the donor's interests and the charity's interests and concerns so that they become one.
So it's a shift from a perspective to focusing on the nonprofit to focusing on the donor.
That's right.
You talk a lot about 3 killer apps. Can you say more about those apps?
Well, one of the things that happens in philanthropy is that the fundraisers and charities have a series of like products that they try to push onto the donor. Would you like to try a gift annuity? Would you like to leave a bequest? Please make an annual gift. We have a special campaign coming up. And they tend to focus on that as if that's their mission. That is not their mission. The killer apps allow you to kind of leave all that behind. And instead of focusing on one product or another, you can focus on what's important to the donor. In fact, the whole thing that makes personalized philanthropy work is a new definition of what fundraising and philanthropy should be about. And that is that your aim is to try to match the compelling interests of the donor with the compelling needs of the charity. And what this does is it shifts the whole perspective of what you're doing with people, and it inspires and motivates and incentivizes the fundraiser to really know their mission, to know their institution, to know the ins and outs, to know every brick and cranny, nook and cranny, like Sarah does, who's been here since 1995. She knows more about this place than anyone. So if you're a donor and you have an interest, she's going to be able to find a compelling need for the institution. If you think about a mortgage, when you buy a house, you get to move into it right away, even though you don't fully own it. Now, charities don't work that way. You usually have to finish paying off your gift, and then your recognition begins, and then your program begins. And if it's a planned gift that involves a bequest or something, it doesn't even begin until after you die.
Right.
That's just nuts. But that's the way
the way we do it.
That's the way we do it.
Yeah.
So the killer apps enable you to start up your philanthropy and your impact right away. So if you think about a mortgage, every time you make a mortgage payment, it's part operating money and it's part building equity. So all of these 3 killer apps that I have allow you to build equity into your endowment, and they also enable you to start up your program and your impact right away. So there's like 3 of them, 3 variations that I could tell you about.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about those 3?
The easiest one to understand is the one that's in the middle. I call it the philanthropic mortgage, because each payment represents a payment of principal and of interest. And in fundraising terms, it's like an annual operating fee to run your program right now. And at the same time, you're building up equity in your endowment so that when you do pass away ultimately, or at a certain date that you specify, like with a mortgage, then your program is fully endowed. That doesn't need you to be making annual payments anymore because it's able to support the program itself.
That is a very different approach.
Right. It's very different. And as a matter of fact, what's kind of exciting about it, if you think about a mortgage as being 30 years, or it can be any amount, any term that you would want to set based on your own individual capacity, it allows you, in a way, as a donor, to tap into your full lifetime capacity whenever you want, no matter how old you are. So 3 ways of doing this. One might be what we call a virtual endowment. So suppose you're a person who can afford like let's say, for example, you're already a $5,000 a year donor. That's a pretty significant annual donor. You've been giving this gift for the last 10 years, and you intend to continue to give it for the next 10 years. So your program, say the program that you want to endow or support at Caffè Lena costs $5,000 a year. It would cost $100,000 to endow at a 5% spending rate. So basically you're giving that annual spending rate gift from your endowment, even though you haven't endowed the program yet. So it's like a virtual endowment until, say, you pass away or you make a balloon payment later on of that full amount of principal, the $100,000, and then your program becomes fully sustaining. So it's like a virtual endowment until it becomes a true endowment. The third one is a step up.
Yes.
So there's a lot of donors who can afford during their lifetime to do just so much, but they know that in their estate they have a lot more that they could tap into. Now, most fundraisers would consider these things as totally separate, and a charitable organization would never think of connecting the donor's current capacity to their future capacity.
Right, like, I don't know if we can do this or not.
Right.
Now I want to switch to a real life example, Sarah. How does this work actually with a nonprofit? Because I know you've taken this philosophy and you ran with it.
Yeah.
And what did you create?
Well, I mean, we have the most perfect example of everything that Steve's just been talking about. We had the opportunity to work with a donor couple that had years of relationship with the venue, and their interest within our programming that we do here at Caffè Lena was in what I would call legacy artists, people who had been out there making music in the folk music scene for decades and were really the influences on the current generation, and they wanted to support those artists and make sure that those kind of shows remained an essential part of our program here. So through a conversation with the donor, coming to understand that, what we envisioned together was what we call the Folk Heritage Series, and it's a monthly program. And so we were able to help this couple develop the Folk Heritage Series endowment. And they started with a very generous donation of $100,000. And they are...
That was sort of like the down payment.
Yeah, it was like their down payment.
Mm-hmm.
And it had real tax advantages for them as well. So in terms of that kind of stuff, it was good for the donor, and it locked in this part of our program. So it's really like the philanthropic mortgage that Steve was talking about, because that was like a down payment. And then on top of that, they committed to annual gifts that would build up the endowment over the course of several years. Now we're within just a couple years of having a fully funded endowment for this series that will enable us to continue it in perpetuity.
I'll bet they're thrilled with this. And it probably, when you started talking to them, they didn't even envision that they could set this kind of a plan up.
Yeah, we just kind of, hand in hand, figured it out together, and that's the way that I love to work with donors, because again, it was about a shared interest. It was about Caffè Lena being able to carry on a portion of its mission, and it was about these donors being able to support the music that really means a lot to them. And like Steve was talking about, the thing that's really innovative is that they can show up every month with friends and family and share what they love with their circle right now and enjoy it while they're alive, and not have to just think, well, after we're gone, there will be this great thing happening, but they can actually enjoy it
They
now.
can be a part of it.
Yes, they can be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that is a great example.
You know, when you're you have an entrepreneurial spirit, and you can explore and you can kind of cross boundaries and make new things up from your imagination. And if you have a donor like the one that you're talking about, who so far is nameless, it's possible they're going to give you that $100,000 a year, and you know that maybe it's coming from their retirement fund. So you know that there's something later that's also available. So all of those killer apps that I call them, and I call them killer apps because it's like in technology, you do something and it's just going to change the way that people think about it from now on, like the printing press changed the way that people think about, you know, everything. And you were able to work with that donor and develop this idea of an equity building gift that would start off providing support right now, and then it would grow and grow and grow, and then it would become self-sustaining.
Yeah.
And then it could even grow even further in ways that you couldn't even imagine now. So I just think, you know, I have to applaud you and your imagination for kind of creating these things. It's just wonderful what you did.
Well, you know, in philanthropy, there's often a lot of talk about the mechanisms of donations, but there's also a talk about relationship building. And I think that the more that gifts can come out of a valid, you know, human, authentic relationship, the closer you can get to finding that beautiful pairing of organizational mission and donor mission.
Yeah, and you did connect them so that the donors' passions and where their heart really was, and what you needed at Caffè Lena.
And what we needed, and it has to be authentic. It has to be a true match. But like you said, Steve, it's knowing your organization from top to bottom, so that when that person comes walking through the door, you can say, you know what, I know where this fits.
Yeah.
And how did the board respond when you put this together?
They were surprised, I would
Agog.
say.
I bet they were agog.
They were. That would be the word for it. Agog. They were surprised and delighted, and for us, it jump-started a new endowment effort.
Oh yeah, I've read about that. It's Lena Legacy Society?
Yeah, Lena Legacy Society
Yeah.
is our effort to endow this venue that's 63 years old, but has never up to this point had an endowment. And going through the pandemic, I think a lot of small organizations like ours that were just running on operating revenues did a big, oh my gosh, you know, we never thought about a situation where the world would stop and an endowment would become important. So,
So the music starts now.
yeah.
Yes, definitely. As we wrap up this short segment, and we could have gone on for a lot longer in discussing personalized philanthropy, I want to encourage you, our viewers, who are watching this video today, to think about how you might incorporate aspects of this philanthropy into the work that you do with the nonprofits that you serve. And here in the listening room of Caffè Lena, where music has connected folks for years, for decades, 63 years, we heard Sarah just saying, 63 years. It's been fun to talk with you, Steve, and you, Sarah, about an approach to philanthropy that brings together donors and it connects their hearts, their minds, and the missions of nonprofits. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathleen. Great to meet you, Steve.
Great to be here.
That's a wrap.
Woohoo!
Yes.
Hi!
Great. Oh,
Hey.
yeah. This is how we celebrate at Caffè Lena. Lena's
wonderful.
original recipe
We
of
ate.
chocolate
We
chip
had.
cookies.
We were here for the show last night, and we had these. And it's the first time Steve's been here for a show at Caffè Lena. It was the Grain Thief. It was phenomenal bluegrass.
And the
That's
cookies
good.
were good too.
We loved it. Hey, this whole thing, it went great. You were fantastic, and you said you wouldn't be able to remember all those things.
And I
but-
didn't.
Well, it sounded like you did, and you are so eloquent when you speak about the cafe.
Thank you. You give me easy questions.
And you're really inspiring. So
Well,
No.
thank you.
Oh, and these-
So I earned a cookie.
you earned it.
Who made these cookies?
Our volunteers.
They stayed up late, knowing we were coming in early.
delicious. Thank you so much.